So Jim Bledsoe is going to talk to us today about the economic impact of voluntary cost share programs in Tennessee. This is in partial fulfillment of his master's degree, which he'll be finishing up this summer.
This summer.
All right. Why don't you take it away?
Thank you very much. Like Dr. Delman said, I'm Jim Bledsoe. I live in Jamestown, Tennessee, about 5 hours from here. And this is my master's research project, which is the economic impact of voluntary cost share programs in Tennessee. I deal with the cost share programs every day. I'm the past president now of TACD, which is Tennessee Association of Conservation Districts. All 95 counties in Tennessee have a soil and water conservation district, and those soil and water conservation districts partner with NRCS and TDA, which is Natural Resource Conservation Service, the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, to do voluntary cost share programs for conservation in Tennessee. But conservation in the United States came about in the 1930s during the Dust Bowl. If y'all don't know what the Dust Bowl was, it's agricultural practices in the Midwest, Kansas, Oklahoma, on the plains, and they were not sustainable, and they caused pretty bad erosion and everything like this. And this is, if you've all looked up Dust Bowl, you'll see these pictures pretty commonly. But there was a man called Dr. Hugh Hammond Bennett, who was the father of modern conservation, and he came up with a plan to get federal money to cost share with farmers on the ground to prevent this from ever happening again. And he's pretty famous. He was trying to get money from the legislature to start the Soil Conservation Service. And he was in Washington at a joint meeting of the legislature, and there was a dust storm coming from across the plains coming toward Washington. And he prolonged his speech during this time long enough. He just kept talking and telling them about all the benefits and all the problems they were having until the dust storm hit Washington. And he walked over to the windows, flung the windows open, and the dust storm blew across the committee meeting. And he said, "This is the plains of Kansas and Oklahoma." After that, in 1935, they started the Soil Conservation Service, and its mission was to help, feed a growing population while conserving and protecting the natural resources for sustainability. And the voluntary cost share programs they address the resource concerns and protect soil and water. And NRCS's mission now is we deliver conservation solutions so agricultural producers can protect natural resources and feed a growing world. And the Tennessee Department of Ag's mission is to serve, support, and promote agriculture and forestry. Why is this project important? These programs need to be marketed to legislators who fund the program. This is through the conservation title of the Farm Bill, where most of these funds come from through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And TDA's program comes through the governor's budget through the Tennessee Department of Ag. So the legislators need to know why these projects are important to get conservation on the ground. They're also very beneficial to the environment, and they help feed us and clothe us and everything else. If you eat or wear clothes, you're involved in agriculture. So conservation is part of agriculture. But because these programs are voluntary and sometimes cost prohibitive to producers, they must be marketed to them to implement them. I mean, if you're going to do a riparian buffer on a stream, it's going to be a substantial amount of money. So you need to know why you're doing it. And if there's not only an environmental benefit, but there's also a monetary benefit. And it should be stressed that the benefits outweigh the cost. But there could be a large economic benefit to the community, to the surrounding community, not just an environmental benefit. So the programs that we're talking about is the USDA NRCS programs, EQIP and CSP. And EQIP stands for Environmental Quality Incentive Program. And CSP is Conservation Stewardship Program. These are 75% cost share monies. They give technical information and a 75% cost share, and the producer has 25% skin in the game. And the TDA, Tennessee Department of Agriculture program is Ag Resources Conservation Fund, ARCF. And both these programs use a lot of acronyms. So that's, you just try to spell them out and explain what they are. The Ag Resource Conservation Fund comes from a portion of the real estate transfer tax. Every time a piece of property has been sold in the state of Tennessee, part of that money goes to the Department of Ag, and it helps fund these resource programs. But these conservation projects provide a beneficial environmental impact when implemented. They reduce erosion, stabilize the soil, promote soil health, protect water quality, enhance wildlife, promote pollinators, improve waste management, promote quality forests, improve air quality, and much more through best management practices. So there was a related study done by the University of Tennessee and the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. And this is part of the M-Plan model that we will be showing here a little later, which we use two different models in this project. The related study was done through TDA with the TAEP, Tennessee Ag Enhancement Program, which is a 35 to 50% cost share program. And it lets producers across the state, if you've got cattle or hay equipment or hay ground or row crop farmers or agritourism, you can apply for these funds. And it just shows how the money is turned over in the local economy. Each TAP dollar generates $6.55 in the local economy. This is their TAEP fact sheet. I don't know who those people are out there, but they look all right. But it shows what row crop solutions, how each project, how it generates more money in the local economies. So it's kind of like a return on investment, but it's not a return on investment. It's economic activity generated is what it boils down to. So the models we're using is an input-output model. That's M-Plan, which is through the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. And it just uses producer price to generate a return on economic activity. And then we're also using a Stata 18 ordinary OLS model, ordinary least squares model. And that will do the statistical analysis on there. Last on the M-Plan model, it uses the North American Industry Classification System, which is has 546 industries across the country, across the state, and you break down how the project that you're doing, how it breaks down into those different industries. And then that trickle down effect is how they get the dollar generated in other areas. For every direct dollar invested, you have X amount of money generated in that other industries. So, and I used, for the M-Plan model, I used the 75% cost share portion from the top 5 NRCS programs. The reason I only use top 5 is because they compile about 60% of the total projects allocated through NRCS, and they compile about 55% of the total money allocated. They have close to 200 different programs, but the top 5 are the big ones that get the most use. The reason I didn't use TDA in this M-Plan model is because when they allocate money to the counties, they allocate it in blocks. And when they allocate that in blocks, it's hard to track where that money is going to what industry it would be going to. So, but they are working on that. We get the direct and total effects from the project and put in that North American Industry Classification System. And it's the direct effect is what actual industry is involved in implementing these programs. And then the indirect is other industries that are affected by that. And then the induced effect is kind of like the Walmart effect, what the households spend that are affected by that. So you get the induced and indirect, and get those together, and you get the total total effects. So, and within M-Plan, there is a Tennessee output multiplier, which gives an output multiplier by industries for the sector for the Tennessee model. In the Stata 18, we're going to see if there is a positive correlation between cost share dollars and per capita income for each individual county. And the reason I use per capita income instead of median income is per capita income is what most people use to classify poverty in counties. So I use that instead of the median income. There will also be a regression run in Stata to get a coefficient estimate will represent the marginal effects of how additional dollars spent on cost share affects the per capita income. So the data collection, we've got data from USDA and NRCS. They provided budget information for the cost share programs. And we also got this from TDA as well on some of their other programs, or all the programs that went through the Ag Resource Conservation Fund. The top 5 programs were used for simplification in the M-Plan model. Like I said before, they have over 200 programs, and the top 5 account for most of the money spent, though. You can see here, this is just a list of their main programs, and the top 5: fencing, cover crop, livestock pipeline, heavy use area protection, and watering facilities. So that's for 2020. And see the same in 2021, fencing, cover crop, same 5. This year, cover crop surpassed fencing, but it's still the same 5 programs in every year for 2022. And then for 2023, fencing goes back on top. And that's the number of projects completed and for each thing. This has a number of projects for each year with the funds obligated to them. That's the total obligation that for the 4 years. I don't have it on here, but the total obligation is just a little over $201 million coming into Tennessee from NRCS to fund these projects. So, but this is the top 5 and the funds going into those. This is that North American model, the North American Industry Classification System model. And what we had to do is break down in each one, like for fencing, how much labor, how much materials, how much machinery, and then you put those into the NAICS code, and it tells how it affects and trickles down. So and we've got that broke down for each one: cover crops, livestock pipeline, heavy use areas, and water facilities. And then on the Stata 18 model, statistical information comes from the U.S. Census about population and per capita income, and that was from the 2022 U.S. Census. And there's a website there for the quick links. And then the data from NRCS and TDA contracts was obtained through spreadsheets from the state NRCS office and from Tennessee Department of Agriculture. But what we expect this project to do is determine the economic impact of the voluntary cost share programs in local economies. This will be demonstrated by showing how each dollar of initial investment, and that's initial investment, generates more dollars in the local economy. The results can be used to demonstrate to producers that the projects they're implementing provide an economic benefit to their local communities, as well as a positive environmental impact. This would encourage more participation, and this is what we're wanting to stress: more participation in these programs, because that gets conservation on the ground and it benefits the environment. And then policymakers could use this information to promote more voluntary cost share programs and to gain more state and federal dollars to fund or expand the programs. The results. This is from the M-Plan model, And once we implemented the fencing, cover crop, livestock pipelines, the money spent on those, we have a direct, indirect, and induced impact. Now, what I really want to stress here is just totals at the bottom. This is for 2020, and we can see how it affects employment across the state of Tennessee, and then total output is what we're looking at. So that's for 2020. Same for 2021, 2022, and 2023. So the total impact for 4 years, it had $76,512,000. The direct impact was $40,116,000. So what you do is you divide this number here into the total, divide the direct into the total, and that gives you an economic activity generated. So for every dollar invested in cost share programs, 91 cents of new economic activity is generated. This one here is the initial investment. That's the direct investment. And then the 91 cents is new money generated in the local economies. So
They're almost double.
almost double, yes. For total employment, and this is good for legislators and local governments and stuff, for same deal, you got the direct impact, 664, and then the total employment was 850. For every direct job created by the cost share programs, 0.28 new jobs are created in other industries. So, and the same, you divide this into that, and this one is the direct impact, and then the 0.28 would be the jobs created by these cost share programs in other industries. And for the legislators, you can also, the tax shocks. We can look at how these programs affect the taxes, and you can go county, and this is, you can add sub-county all the way across to the county, but get the state, federal, and everything. Take the direct and divide it into the total. So the total for 4 years was $12 million, and the direct was $7.5 million. So you divide that in, for every one direct dollar, you get 64 cents of new tax revenue generated. So that's good for local economies. You can show that to, your county executives, county mayors, state legislative officials, because new tax generation, it funds schools, funds roads, funds everything. So that's a major point to show to the legislators that new tax money is generated by these programs. The OLS model and STATA, this is the means or averages, and what we really need to look at here is the mean per capita income at $30,071, and we'll use that a little later on. And then this total obligation is $57,947. This other total obligation here is with the 25% cost share match that the landowners put in themselves, but we're using this total obligation here first in our models. So there is a positive correlation here. When you run a correlation in STATA, you've got a positive 0.01 correlation, which means that the money coming in from those cost shares positively affects the per capita income. Also, we've done a regression on the cost share dollars, and things we need to look at on here is the coefficient estimates, and this $30,004.50 is what we would have if there was no cost share dollars coming into the county. So the per capita income would be $30,000 or $4.50 with no per capita income. This is the marginal difference for every dollar of cost share money coming in. There is a 0.0012 raise in per capita income. And then also our R square up here in the right-hand corner is how well that the cost share monies explain the per capita income. So the coefficient estimate of that 0.0012 indicates that for every dollar of cost share money spent, the per capita income would increase by that amount. That's the marginal benefit. The intercept coefficient of $30,004.50 indicates what the per capita income would be without the cost share dollars. And the R square is 0.001, an indicator of how well cost share dollars is per capita income, which in this case, it's not a real good indicator. But we done robustness checks, which is, we're trying to verify our work. We're trying to clean it up, take any biases out. And robustness check done to ensure that the data was not biased. And the correlate star there is a test for multicollinearity. And that basically is explaining that the independent X variables are not related. And they're not biasing the Y variables. And then the state head is command for the Bruce Pagan Cook Wiseman is for heteroscedasticity. I never can say this correctly, right? Heteroscedasticity. And that's basically saying that the error terms don't have the same variance. And you want that to be in the single digits, which it was 4.96. And that means that it is homoscedastic and it is unbiased. And then we done a wall test to perform an accuracy of the thing, and we were shooting for 95, but it come up at 85% accuracy. The reason we do that, you must be able to test a theory to give it value. So we've got a pretty good, decent accuracy. We probably need to work on a few things to get that higher. But although cost share dollars are not a good indicator of per capita income, this project proves that they have a positive correlation and a positive impact on the economies. And then the intercept coefficient, that $30,004, that was with zero cost share dollars coming into the county. And the mean per capita income that we pointed out was $30,071, which means that that's with the cost share dollars included. That's a $66.70 increase in per capita income, or 0.22 increase in having the cost share dollars. So with those cost share dollars included, it moved the per capita income up, which is pretty substantial considering that's, a small number of contracts considering the population of the state of Tennessee. So we've done another project in Dr. Delman's class and using the STATA model, but I limited the counties in Tennessee to just the 8 distressed counties: Lake, Hardeman, Curry, Clay, Bledsoe, Scott, Hancock, and Cobb. And it showed a more positive effect on the counties. The coefficient went up from 0.012 to 0.067. And the difference in the per capita income went from $66 to $343, or a 0.22 change to a 1.52. That would indicate that the lower income counties would see a greater economic benefit from the cost share programs than the more urban areas. This project has demonstrated that the voluntary cost share programs do have a positive economic impact and are economically beneficial to Tennessee communities. The results of the impact or in-plan model were for every dollar invested in the cost share programs, there was increased economic activity of 91 cents. And for every direct job created by the voluntary cost share programs, there was 0.28 new jobs created in other industries across the state. And there was a 64-cent increase in new tax revenue for every dollar. And the STATA model showed that there was $66 increase in per capita income, 22 or 0.22%. And, that's pretty substantial considering the small number of contracts compared to the population of the state of Tennessee. So, the positive results from both models can show producers that these projects they're implementing provide an economic benefit to the local communities and a positive environmental impact. This should encourage more participation by producers and get more conservation on the ground. And policymakers, they have good information to fund more of these projects. So that's the end goal, is get more projects on the ground, benefit the environment, and help the local economies. There's my references. Jamie Menard from UT Knoxville was a big help in the M-Plan model. He runs that program over there for UT Institute of Agriculture, their economic plans. So, but got a lot of information from the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Arthur Hawkins was acting state conservationist and helped get a lot of stuff for me that would have been harder to get on my own. And then John McClurkin from Tennessee Department of Ag, Water Resources Specialist, he was a big help on the TDA stuff. So. Any questions?
Very good job.
I have some questions.
Yeah, I have a good few too, so.
So, I think your implant story right now is the more compelling story.
Yeah.
But I think there's some things you can do, to kind of, get that status story, up to par. The first thing, can you go back to your STATA results? Yeah, one forward. There you go. Sorry, no, other way.
Oh, okay, my regression.
Yeah, the regression. So right now, your obligation debt is not statistically significant. So while it's small, but it's also because that
0.001.
well, yeah, that one there.
Yeah.
If you look at your P value,
Yeah.
because it's so large, that is not a statistically significant result. But I think part of that is that you don't have a lot of variables, so you're not looking at a lot.
Yeah, I had 14 variables, which I mean, and this regression, I guess there was only
Right.
2 variables.
Right. You're only really looking at one here.
Yeah, 380 observations. So.
But you have a panel, right? So you have four years with
Mhm.
95 counties.
Yes.
So you could run this as a fixed effects model and have it pull out all of the individual county level differences and throw that away so you can see how the obligation affects it, just how it affects per capita income on its own. It pulls out all those effects that are specific to different counties.
Yeah.
And I think that would give you a much more useful answer. And it won't give you all that. It'll just kind of show you how total obligation is impacted without the county data clouding it. Because there are counties certainly where it's going to be more beneficial, where you're going to have more of it, but you're not pulling any of that out here.
Yeah.
So that'll control for all of those.
Yeah, I could pull up my spreadsheet that's got all the data compiled on it, and it's just too big to put on a slide. I mean, it's like I said, it's 380 something observations and then 14 variables across because I included population and even land area and square miles because it's just something that's interesting to me.
I think if you ran it as a fixed effects model, you could pull out all that stuff. I think it would really improve your R squared too, because your R squared is extraordinarily
Extremely
low.
low.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of thought that was.
But if you had a whole bunch more variables that you didn't really care about, you're using this controls.
Yeah.
You could boost that R squared and really see what the true impact of total obligation is without ignoring the counties, different differences between the counties.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because when I went to, this one right here, when we just run it with the 8 counties, the R square was significantly higher.
It should have been, because you're only looking at counties that are stressed.
Yeah.
That are using the program, whereas if you're looking at ones that are,
Davidson County, Shelby County.
yeah, you wouldn't expect the same thing, but all that's not captured. You're not controlling for it anywhere.
Right.
So pulling all those county fixed effects out you're treating every county as different and throwing away all the differences between the counties aside from this piece. I think that would be useful. When you're presenting it, the last slide on this data, you should definitely not just talk about the $66 difference.
Oh,
You should talk about it, you can multiply that by the number of people, look at the aggregate difference. So if you multiply that back by the population, you'll see the total increase in income in the state, which I think would be more. It's a bigger
Yeah.
number, and it might tie back a little closer to your implant
yeah.
numbers.
I had a question about that $66. Is that an average over all of them? Or is that like a total?
That is it. Should be an increase in per capita income per person.
Okay.
That's what he was saying. If I multiplied it by the 7 million, whatever population Tennessee is, that would be a $35 million number.
And then you compare it to the amount spent, see how that difference looks on this end.
So Jim, one of my questions, and this might be something you can tell me, and y'all kind of hinted at this, but I'm trying to think. So we're talking about a transfer program, essentially, right? You're taking tax dollars from all 95 counties, but it's not going to all 95 counties. So is there a way is that what you're demonstrating with these 8 distressed counties? Are we seeing a uniform use of these tax dollars, or are we seeing a transfer from wealthy counties to poor counties? And are the wealthy counties getting anything out of that besides total aggregate tax? Is that what the sub-model would tax? It seems like that would kind of explain that, right?
On the,
It's like if I'm Williamson County, they're net losing on this, right? They're paying out tax dollars because they're not people in these programs. But
they actually, if I can figure out, how do I get off of this on my laptop where I could pull up that spreadsheet just a second?
Hit the escape button.
Because that's what I'm kind of getting at. When you talk about legislator, is there a way to target and say, no, this is beneficial to all counties in Tennessee? Because I can imagine if I'm a legislator from Memphis, I'm gonna say, wait a minute, we're paying all this tax revenue. My people aren't getting any of this benefit. So I mean, how would you measure
You
that?
did say there's money going back into taxes, right? So
Right,
he's at 64, what is it, 64%, it's coming back. So
I'm pretty close on population. It is 7,051,000, but
that's what I was trying to figure out. Is there a way you can tell that story to make it, to be very good? And then also with the 7 million tax dollars coming back in, would that not interact with because you're talking about spend, so if I spend 200 million, I'm not really spending 200 million in tax dollars because I'm generating another 7 that's coming in.
Yeah.
So I'm spending 193 million is what I'm really spending. Because it's netting me, is that affect anywhere does that show up anywhere? Does it tell us?
well, like right here, say Davidson County, it's number 22 on that line. The population 708,000.
Yeah.
And the per capita income 45,000. Well, Davidson County got, and this is 2020. Get on that line here. They got $44,000 in equip dollars. And you go to DeKalb County, which is a small county on the Upper Cumberland, it got 461,000.
Yeah.
It's just according to how much activity is in there. And then you go across and CSP the same way. And then,
Yes, I'm just curious about how that worked, because that seems like there'd be a story you could tell about that. You could say, no, this is beneficial to everybody. It's not something that's for rich counties, poor counties, it's for everybody.
right.
Um,
It is offered in every county. All these programs are offered in every county across the state, and it's just the amount of land used for them.
So one additional piece I think would be worth talking about this, at least what I understand the TDA programs, is there's something beyond the dollar value too, right? I mean, these fencing, we think about fencing and stuff, those are really safety issues.
Mhm.
Like so is there a way to incorporate that, because that's got an economic impact too. I mean, you got people not getting hurt. I mean, think about the number of deaths we have every year. How would you incorporate that kind of data in this too? 'Cause that's the other thing I would tell a legislator too. This is
Yeah.
something that helps farmers. It
Yeah.
saves lives and it helps improve quality of beef. Animals, where does that fit into any of this? I
Yeah,
guess?
I mean,
Or
they're
how
doing,
does it fit in?
they're
I don't
doing,
know.
most of the programs, they don't do perimeter boundary fences, they do cross fencing, which increases number of paddocks, which increases carrying capacity,
Mhm.
but it reduces soil erosion as well. And then they do exclusion fences around
Mhm.
ponds, streams, and it protects water quality, but it does the same
Okay,
purpose.
so you're not talking about, so this is not the same purpose one that you get like cattle sheep.
No, that's TAUP.
That's
Yeah.
not in this model. This is just
No,
environmental.
that-
quality. Okay, never mind. I'm
This-
sorry. Then
This is
I'm
just the cost share programs that are run through the soil and water conservation offices.
I'm thinking about those
Yeah.
others because they have a real
Yeah.
positive health benefit. I mean, they're, it
Yeah,
protects people.
the TAEP stuff is,
That would be a whole separate thing then. Okay.
Yeah. that's what's,
I was thinking they were wrapped in those as well. It's one big pool.
no, that's what's covered under that.
But yours is only looking at the economic side, not the environmental.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I mean, they do provide an positive environmental impact because they're protecting water quality.
But you're not measuring that in here.
No, it
That's-
is. And in my paper, it has some citations to some places where it has been proven that the economic benefits, or not the environmental benefits have been proven. And they've actually put a monetary value on it slightly, but not, they're working on getting that a little better. It's like, carbon credits or whatever. They're still trying to work out the formulas. So, but the ag enhancement program is this. And it does, the genetics, the hay equipment, hay storage, actually the livestock equipment is the head chutes, the sweep tubs, all that stuff that, has a safety aspect to it. But that was just a related study instead of what's in this
So
program.
where, any idea from your literature review of where this stacks up in comparison to other government funded things as far as tax? I mean, to me, this seems like a great deal. I mean, this is a great use of dollars. You're generating more dollars.
Oh, it has a,
But where does it stack up versus other things that we give, that we spend money on to do? I mean, to me, I think it's a good story to tell.
it has a good return on their investment. I mean, this is not showing return on investment. It's economic activity generated, but it has a really good return on investment as well. So, but
That's pretty cool stuff. That's a good job.
any more questions? Thanks, all sign.
Well, this is your official presentation or? Are you gonna present at a conference?
Kind of, I'm not presenting at a conference unless these guys want me to, so.
Okay,
This is just my AGRI 791 research problem.
okay.
So this is not really, this is a research problem. It's not my master's thesis, but it's the research
Okay.
problem.
Tony, I'm curious, that fixed effect model, how difficult would that be to make all that work? Is that something that's easy to, or not, is it easy to relative, or how to get it to work? I mean,
It doesn't take long.
because the in-plan stuff is set, right? I mean, that is what the
It is
answer
what
is.
it
There is no questions about whether that's right or wrong, but like, do you think that fixed effect model would give you some? I mean,
I mean,
if you
I-
give us
I
statistically
think-
significant, it would
I
be
think
there.
it would drastically improve the
They work with it.
analysis. And I don't think it would take very long. All you're doing is just taking the data you have, setting you have counties in the data, right?
Yes.
So just setting those as the indicator for a fixed effect group and then run it again.
Actually, two different studies. I mean, really, you're talking about one, you could present one separate as
You could-
Yeah.
the other's the input. I mean,
you could.
Yeah, there's each individual county is broke down, and it's got all the dollars going into from each contract year into that. So
Yeah, you could generate a basically take all those counties, are your years going across?
They are, I've got
Oh,
one,
that-
I've got with them, I've got them with it going up and down if you,
Yeah, so you'd want the years to, you'd want to have repeated numbers. So each county is gonna be repeated 4 times going down
right here.
with the data for each year. I can work with you on that. That shouldn't take.
This right here.
Okay. You've got years, yep, that's what you'd want to do, and just
That's,
run.
that's how I had to do it, to run it through Stata.
Okay, yeah, so you'd run this in Stata too. You just,
Yeah.
all you're gonna do is you're gonna treat that column A, those variables as your fixed element.
Uh-huh,
And it's gonna say, for every Anderson County, this is the basically the intercept. So it's gonna create a whole separate thing for each one. It's
mhm,
gonna look massive and horrible, but you don't care about that, because you're just gonna say, I ran fixed effects.
yeah,
You only then wanna look at that obligation, the total obligation, and I assume that once you take out all the county-specific effects, you're gonna see that that obligation now is important.
Yeah.
To income. So I think you'll get a better story
okay,
there.
that's great. But yeah, I had to move it all into that vertical format to,
Getting the data right is the biggest hassle for
Yeah.
this data, but I mean, it's a hassle for you.
Yeah. I think it come up with 380 something observations, yeah.
Are the ones that have blanks in them, were they just, there was no activity at all? They didn't-
There was no money spent, but I
So
went
that's
back and
counts that didn't do any of it.
I went back and rechecked
crazy.
that, yeah. And that would have been White County, that would have been CSP dollars, and that's probably, that was in 2023, I guess, so there was no money spent on that one, so yeah.
Yeah, the way you run it now is just treating every county as the same.
Yeah.
And they're not the same. There is a systematic difference from
Right.
county to county, depending on how much land they've got, how much interest they have in it. And so you're gonna take that effect out. I think that would be.
Yeah.
That would be very
Yeah,
telling.
'cause that's,
We'll do a
that's
fixed
weird.
effect model.
Yeah, just across the state, when you think about the road, the hills and stuff in East Tennessee, they all have runoff issues, but I'm just thinking, yeah, you would think there'd be some kind of difference between all that. You got all this, are we seeing anything from the no-till out here, and, all the years of no-till, is there one part that's coming out better than the rest of it? Seems like there'd be differences all across the state, but that's interesting.
You have to treat to see what you find.
You should also see too, how many farmers utilize this stuff. It's not, that's a good question. Why is it not being
Well,
utilized?
that was one of the things that I was talking to NRCS about, and TDA as well. I mean, the group that I deal with every day, you're preaching to the choir on them because they know about all of it.
Yeah.
But these are voluntary programs, and they need to be marketed to
Yeah.
address the resource concerns.
How are they not?
Because the resource concerns are what we're ultimately wanting to fix. I mean, we want to preserve and conserve the resources, and, just showing different ways that it can positively impact is just another way of marketing it, so.
Was there ever a constraint in these years where they ran out of money, didn't have money to fund more
Now-
projects or
now that-
anything like that? Or?
Like I said, it's funded through, Title II, the Farm Bill, Conservation Title, the Farm Bill for the NRCS programs. And then TDA money is funded through that real estate transfer tax. So in, years past, it's been with high people moving in Tennessee, it was up like $15 million. Now it's down to about 10. So it fluctuates. And
But we haven't capped out, it hasn't become.
So they never fund everything they needed to, right? I guess
Yeah, they're actually, TDA is going through a new model of where they're not over obligating themselves. They're only funding what they know they have coming in. And what they have in reserve. That, like I said, if that goes out in blocks, counties make the requests, like Ventures County, where I live, they requested first round $150,000, and then they obligate that to different programs, cover crop expense, and big one going right now up in our Upper Cumberland areas. They're fixing sinkholes. Trying to fix sinkholes. I don't know if you can fix them or not, but they're geotech fabric and rocking them and all that. But that's just a lot of different stuff going with it. But they're, and then once you spend that money, you can make a request for more money. Now the NRCS programs, they're funded, year to year. And it's just according to how much money they have allocated. Right at this particular moment, we have a massive influx of IRA money, Inflation Reduction Act money. And it could be generational money. I mean, it's $200 something million that is going to come in, but it's their hands are tied to it, the way it was passed.
Yeah.
They've got so many years to spend it, and
Congress is trying to figure out how to claw it back. They like to figure out.
well, they are. That's I mean, and if they did take some of it back, as long as they kept it in conservation, because it's not part of the Farm Bill money.
Right.
But, if they incorporated into the Farm Bill money and conservation title to the Farm Bill, that would be something.
Yeah, they're trying to incorporate it in the baseline. That's what they're trying to, I don't know if they're gonna be able to do that or not.
I don't know if you all know it, but the Farm Bill is like 80%.
Yeah.
Not agriculture, it's not farm, it's food programs, WIC, food stamps, such as that, nutrition programs, it's between 75 and 80%, and then the other 20 to 25% is farm programs, conservation, crop insurance, risk management tools, things that we need to actually feed the world. But
So if you weren't presenting this to my professors and students, I imagine you would be presenting it to like the agriculture people at like the co-ops or like cattlemen's associations in the counties with lower investments.
yeah, it could very easily just be a slideshow. You go in and go to your local cattlemen's meeting and present, and
Just try to generate more.
involvement, more knowledge about the programs. Yes, but it's just my intention was it's a basic tool to market these programs to get more conservation on the ground. We're just trying to find new ways of getting people involved in them. So that's the end goal.
To me, it certainly demonstrates there's not a reason not to utilize these techniques, because there's resources out there for farmers if they will, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It tells me that there's not really an excuse to say, hey, I've got huge, environmental issues on my farm, because really, there shouldn't be.
There shouldn't be, yeah.
Yeah, I think the government, they're doing the right thing. They're doing the right job. This is a great program, and if people are not utilizing it, that'd be the question, why are they not utilizing it? I mean, that's 75-20, right?
75-25.
That's a great, you're not gonna get better than that. I mean, that's about as good as it gets. I mean, why would a farmer not utilize those things?
And most of the time, they have a set practice, like cross fencing, they give you, and it could be up now, it was like $2.76 per foot. And that includes the fence post, barbed wire, the labor, everything. Well, at one time, you could buy all your materials, and if you done the labor yourself, it basically paid 100%. And but you're paying yourself for the labor. I guess you're 25% sweat equity.
Yeah.
But they're good programs, and they have changed them because materials. With inflation, materials went up, availability, so they had to adjust those.
I know this is I know your main focus is Tennessee, but this is something like each state has?
Yes, but the NRCS programs, that's nationwide.
Okay.
Now we have in Tennessee, we have around approximately 200 different programs that you can incorporate, but the in other states, it varies. A lot of times they go on watershed models, but, they have pumping plants, grade stabilizing, they have terrace structures, and it goes up down into wildlife management. Up in wildlife management, help quail, and that's basically field buffers and long leaf pine planting, stuff like that, so, but. Yeah, they're really good programs, but no, they're nationwide, that's one USDA. And then each Department of Ag across the state, I'm sure they have similar programs, it's according to how they're funded. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna demonstrate my great ignorance here. What exactly is mulching as far as, I mean, I know what mulching is. I think of like plants from my house. What does that mean in this sense? Like, what would mulching be?
You've seen those skid steers with the big grinders on front of them? If you got if you went in and planted trees and you need to thin out the trees or get rid of undesirable species.
Yeah, that big thing that goes and cuts, okay, I didn't know that's what that was called. I was like, well, because I'm thinking of like around my house, like the mulch that you put around plants, but I knew it obviously wasn't that, okay, so. Mulch.
Yeah. But I don't really know what the null is. I don't know if I'm sure it's an acronym for something, but I don't really, I will ask that though, and find out.
It's funny, the brush, I guess the brush management, I would, after those horrendous fires in Gatlinburg and stuff, I would think that would be, is that what they're talking about, getting rid of like underbrush and? That was devastating. I would think there would be a lot of people doing that.
It's usually implanted, that brush management goes along with the, the forest stand improvement stuff.
Okay.
You basically get a forest plan, have either state forester or there's companies out that will do the forest plan and they'll kind of recommend what you need to do. So, but there's, like I said, there's just a lot of different, in Tennessee, there's close to 200 different programs, and that's just the top one that's listed right there. But,
Any other questions?
I appreciate the input and appreciate both of y'all's time, and thank you for coming. And I really, I think it could be a good marketing tool to different genres of people. And like I said, I live this every day, so I have to, I get to deal with it. And then I'm a full-time farmer, by the way. I raise beef cattle, a little bit of row crops, but mostly poultry broilers. I have 9 broiler houses and raise about 1.6 million chickens a year. But I'm involved with a lot of different conservation groups. And I've been involved with all the soil and water conservation districts for 15 or 20 years. And I was involved with Tennessee Fish and Wildlife, TWRA, for several years, and try to help out the University of Tennessee all the time.
I would definitely think this is, once you finally got it in the format you want, this is definitely something you want to put on a fact sheet.
Yeah.
And give to somebody like Andy Darby needs to stick that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's vice chair of the ag committee to say, hey, here's what y'all are doing, it's good stuff, and they need to know stuff, they need to hear that. They hear enough negative things all the time
Yeah.
and stuff, but that, they need to win, that's a win, that's a win. So, yeah, our fact sheet would be really good for
Yeah,
this whole thing, this
that-
whole study.
the fact sheet that TAEP put out, the Department of Ag, that they hand that to legislators, and they're like, this is your return on your investment coming into the Department of Ag. So it's general rule of thumb, it's either 6 or 7 times that a dollar turns over on an agricultural program in a county, especially a rural county, so. Thank you very much, appreciate it.